Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā, and today we will be discussing chapter 8, text 5 and 6 of the Bhagavad-gītā, which is preparing for death, the final exam. Just a second though. Alright, so I hope the live stream is okay. Let me know how the camera, the video and the audio is, the experience is. We'll say our prayers and continue with the class. Sorry for the delay. ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā, and we have come back to our original camera, which last week we could not do. So I contacted the support and they actually let me know how to do it. So now I'm able to access this camera at least, so you can have a better camera experience, a better video experience. Okay, so let's go to the verse. Very important verses, often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. One of the most important verses in Bhagavad-gītā, because it all comes down to this. So this is the ultimate test, death. anta-kāle ca māmeva smaran muktvā kalevaram yah prayāti sa mad-bhāvaṁ yāti nāsty atra saṁśayaḥ. Anta-kāle, at the end of life, cha, also, mam, me, eva, certainly, smaran, remembering, muktvā, quitting, kalevaram, the body, yah, he who, prayāti, goes, saha, he, mad-bhāvaṁ, my nature, yāti, achieves, na, not, asti, there is, atra, here, saṁśayaḥ, doubt. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So purport: in this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree, Taroriva Sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. So we'll read the next verse as well, and together we'll discuss this because they're both related. यं यं वापि स्मरन् भावं त्यजत्यन्ते कलेवरं तं तमेवैति kaunteya sadā tad-bhāva-bhāvitaḥ. Yam yam, whatever, va api, at all, smaran, remembering, bhavam, nature, tyajaty, gives up, ante, at the end, kalevaram, this body, tam, similar, eva, certainly, eti, gets, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, sadā, always, tat, that, bhava, state of being, bhāvitaḥ, remembering. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Purport: the process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body thinking of Krishna attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. But it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this is very important. One's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental or spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So, this is a very important junction of Bhagavad-gītā where Krishna very emphatically declares how exactly death takes place and what is the um, process of transmigrating into the next body. So this is where our science fails. So we do not know what happens beyond death. The medical science can only explain to us this body and from the beginning to end. Even that they're not quite sure sometimes. Sometimes it is sure, but then they give in to certain policy. For example, abortion. It is scientifically a fact that there is even a heartbeat inside the womb. The child has a heartbeat. But still they deny that it is a person. It is some electromagnetic movements, they say. Okay, so you're also living now. Your heart also is electromagnetic movement. Just, cutthroat. What is the electromagnetic movement only, right? Huh? So this kind of nonsense arguments they present. So sometimes, so what I'm trying to say is they're not even clear of this body from birth to death, from conception to death. They're not clear still, or they choose not to be clear. They give into certain policies because of stupid, um, you know, um, demonstrations or some protests or something like that. So, but here Krishna is telling what exactly happens at the time of death and how it influences the next body. And this is an important junction. Death is something we don't understand. We think it's the end of everything, and nothing exists after death. So this is a very atheistic, very narrow-minded, ignorant conclusion. Those who do not know how things actually work, they come to this conclusion. These are called Vaibhashika. There is a reference to this by Krishna in the second chapter, in the 226. When Krishna was trying to convince Arjuna about the eternality of the soul, so in one of the arguments, he said, okay, even if you think that the body is not, I mean, the soul is not eternal, and one takes birth when the body, is achieved, I mean, body is born, and one dies forever when the body is gone. So even if you accept that philosophy, you still have no reason to not fight Arjuna. And when he is presenting that argument, even you know, uh, trying to argue on the other side, so he quotes this verse 226. अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life is always born and dies forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. So, what is this always born? That means every moment, so many life forms or the symptoms of life are being, are being generated, right? So, if the life is always being, coming and it dies forever, if that's what is the understanding of life, still you'd have no reason to lament, Arjuna. Why? And nicely Prabhupada explains in the purport. You see, there is always a class of philosophers almost akin to the Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad-gītā, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo religions now becoming fashionable in America are also adhering to this philosophy, as well as to the nihilistic, non devotional Buddhist sects. Nihilistic means denying everything, nothing is reality, it's everything is, illusion, and then the reality is void. That is nihilistic philosophy. So, Buddhist philosophy is that non devotional nihilistic philosophy. Sunyavadi, basically. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. So if Arjuna is lamenting, oh, because this is only chance a life has, or one has only one life, and all, you know. So if Krishna said, that's not a cause to lament then, because life forms, I mean, life symptoms are always coming. Every second there are so many life forms that are coming, and when they die forever, so a certain bunch of chemicals are coming together and forming life, and after some time those chemicals are dismantling themselves and there is death. So even if that is true, why you have to lament on some bunch of chemicals? That's what Prabhupada is explaining here. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. So one spends so many chemicals to attain victory. And if some of the chemicals which are called life are also spent in that way, what is the big deal? Anyway, so many chemicals are being used. Some more chemicals, let them be used. You know, why don't you see it as a equipment of warfare? This person is an equipment of warfare, and the chemicals are dismantled. So finish. So actually, Krishna is indirectly mocking at their philosophy. You know, because if they think that this is the life or chemicals, then why are they placing so much importance on so much laws and the importance of life, the right to live, human rights and all these things? Why do they matter anymore? If they are just a certain bulk of chemicals, then why are you making so many elaborate plans? It's foolish. It is contradictory. It's self-contradictory. It was just a bunch of chemicals which are coming and appearing and disappearing. Why you have to fight so many revolutions, the freedom movement, this and that? Why? One day it's all going to be finished. So he's mocking at the Vaibhashika philosopher. So according to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, nitya-jatam, nitya-jatam means all the time being generated, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. That's another point. If there's no reincarnation, then what is right and what is wrong? How does it matter? I mean, what is heaven? What is hell? Even if you see other religions, when they have a very rudimentary understanding of afterlife, which is just heaven and hell, even then, if that is not there, if if all this doesn't matter, if everybody is just born and dead once, that's it. And how does it matter, this whole activity of what is right and what is wrong? Hmm? So why we should adhere to any rules at all? Nothing matters. Do the machines or the objects of this world, do they consider whether what is right and what is wrong? No. The hammer does not consider. When a person is using the hammer to maybe kill somebody or a knife to kill somebody, the knife does not consider whether I'm doing right or wrong. It's just being manipulated by the user. So similarly, we don't, you know, whether it is cutting a vegetable, cutting for somebody's throat, the knife does not think. Similarly, why should we think if everything is just chemicals? So it doesn't hold. The philosophy doesn't hold, in other words. So anyway, if there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, or which is also called Arya, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. So anyway, so Krishna did not expect Arjuna to believe in Vaibhashika or Lokayatika philosophy, but even if he did, there is no cause for lamentation. So in other words, there is a class of philosophers who are called Vaibhashikas who have the stupid philosophy that life is just generated and it's finished, and there's nothing more, to think about. But no, here Krishna is giving a very descriptive, or very something which plays into a very significant factor at the time of death, which is our thoughts, our mind, the situation, our mental situation. So anta-kāle cha māmeva smaran muktvā kalevaram. Now, so this is the final exam of life. Bhajan karo, sadhan karo, murti janle hoy. There is a proverb in Bengali which says, Bhajan karo, sadhan karo, murti janle hoy. So all this, in during my life, I can do all kind of bhajan, sadhan and everything. But all that will be tested at the time of death. Will be tested at the time of death. So what is that test? Whether I'm able to remember Krishna or not. So this is very different from parrot-like chanting. For example, parrot also can chant. If you teach the bird to chant Hare Krishna, he will chant Hare Krishna. But what is the difference between a parrot chanting and humans chanting? A parrot has no realization. So human, he has to be invested. See, he's chanting. The whole purpose of the chanting is to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death and chant his name at the time of death. And that is not an easy thing to do. Because the parrot, when you catch its throat, he will not chant Hare Krishna because he doesn't understand. So if we become just like the parrot, and just even after coming to Hare Krishna, if we just do it without investing our Mayarpita Mano Buddhir. You see, this is 8-5, right? Sorry, here. Now it's on this side. So 8-5, and this is 8-6. 8-7. You see, the next verse after today's verse. Mayarpita Mano Buddhir. This is very important. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. So think of me at the same time you fight. At all times. Sarveshu kaleshu. But how is this possible? Mayarpita Mano Buddhir. Your mind and intelligence must be fixed on me. Mam evaiti saṁśayaḥ. Then you can come back to me. So our mind and intelligence should be absorbed in the devotional activities that we're doing. So just like there is inattentive chanting, there is inattentive service, inattentive seva as well, where physically I'm doing seva, but mentally I'm somewhere else. I'm actually thinking of non-devotional things. And remember, of course, Krishna will remember whatever we have done, and accordingly we will get our next body. But the thing is, if our mind is not as involved in the service, in the chanting, in the hearing, even when we are in the class, our mind must be there. Not just, I'm physically present in the class, or mentally absent. I'm somewhere, or I'm doing something with my device, or with my, nowadays it's a thing. I've seen devotees, they just, doing something else on their device, even sitting in the class. You see how Maya has crept into the Bhagavatam class as well, and into the Kṛṣṇa Katha as well. So the rapt attention is not there at all. And the reading, nowadays people are just doing micro reading, just like, somebody shares some quote, okay, that is my reading for the day. One quote, one sentence of Prabhupada or something like that. How will it stay? How will it stay? So in 24 hours, if I'm just hearing 5 seconds or 10 seconds reading a quote, how is it going to influence our thoughts very strongly? See, there has to be sustained association with the books of Prabhupada. So it has to be, you have to spend time 1 hour at least daily, Prabhupada said, on reading. And that reading has to happen with full attention. So then only when we are absorbed in such thought, then it will allow us contemplation. Because once we read a quote and then, okay, nice, double tap to like it, that's it, finished, on to the next one. So that's not how we progress. So we have to, our contemplation is gone. I mean, we are on to the next one, not on to the next one. We are not stopping by to actually think or contemplate on what we have heard and trying to assimilate it in our brains. So these are not happening. So the perfection of the mind is to always think of Krishna, Krishna's philosophy, Krishna's shastra, something about Krishna always. So that is the perfection of the mind. Manah phalam tad gunatattva chintanam. In Mukundamala Stotra it is said, Manah phalam tad gunatattva chintanam. I think Mukundamala 46, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Manah phalam, the fruit of the mind. That means the real fruit of the mind, or the real perfection of the mind, is tad guna tattva chintanam. So Krishna's gunas, qualities, and his philosophy, tattva, chintanam, and the reality of Krishna. So This includes everything: his name, his philosophy, his form. All these, thinking of this is the manah-phalam. And remember, at the time of death, even our body will give way, but mind will stay, intelligence will stay. So, even though we have done service with our body and everything, all that service is to actually control or influence the mind. See, just like when my uh, nose, for example, when my senses are working and pulling my mind to something. For example, I'm walking by a restaurant or a bakery, and then the smell of the bakery, wow, this is so nice, let me eat something, I really want to eat something. The mind may say this kind of things. So why did the mind get the idea? Because the nose is the one which pulled the mind to that bakery or some food stuff. So you see, the senses are pulling the mind to that. So ultimately, it's the mind which makes the decision. Okay, let's eat. The nose cannot make the decision. The nose can only introduce some sense object to the mind. The mind will then convince the intelligence to make the decision, because the intelligence is weak. And when the intelligence is strong, then the mind's thoughts, so they will influence intelligence in a different way, or rather, the intelligence will influence the mind. Now, you see, just like in the material life, all these advertisements, this social media and everything, they are run by, they are designed by psychologists who know how the mind, or who study deeply how the mind reacts to certain stimuli. So these stimuli are nothing but the senses introducing some sense objects to the mind, and the mind thinks of that. So similarly, the whole objective of devotional service, of krishnarthe akhila cheshta, so many activities. Now we are restless. We can't sit in one place and think of Krishna or chant his name like Haridas Thakur. So we are restless. We want to do many things. So okay, so the devotional, the spiritual master, he gives us so much devotional service, variety of it. So all kinds of activities, Krishnartha Akhila Cheshta, so many activities for Krishna, you see, are designed by the spiritual master, so that our restless mind and our restless senses can act in such a way that all those activities will eventually bring the mind, or directly bring the mind back to Krishna only. So if I am, suppose, selling books, so although I am selling, I'm doing some sales and talking to people, which is usually a distracting thing. If I want to think of Krishna and if I talk to people, it can be distracting. But if I talk about Krishna, then that's not distracting. So I can afford not to stop talking if I talk only about Krishna. So in that way, in order to convince them about taking a book, I have to always think of Krishna. I have to always speak about him. I have to always speak about his philosophy, repeat his philosophy many, many times to many people. And that will get registered in my mind. I am becoming purified by such activity. So in that way, my mind is always engaged. So similarly, in all the services, the whole point of so many services is to get the mind to Krishna. But if that very mind is somewhere else, although our activity is there, so then we will not get very good result. It will take many, 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 many lifetimes like that. So if we want pritirna yavan mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. So here we are in this movement to actually end our cycle of birth and death. And it is not possible to end the cycle of birth and death unless we come to the stage of pritirna yavan mai vasudeve. What is that? Priti means our affection for Krishna. If it is not aroused, unless we constantly think about Krishna and practice like that with understanding, how can our attraction come? Attraction happens not with the body, with the mind. The mind gets attracted. So how does it happen then if our mind is not sufficiently engaged in Krishna's service? So that's why Krishna said, to come to this point of anta-kāle cha māmeva smaran muktvā kalevaram, to come to this point, we have to apply this mayarpita mano buddhir. Then yes, you can come to me, Krishna says. Otherwise, how is it possible? So this we have to always remember, that ultimately we are preparing for death. We may think that death is somewhere far away. We don't know. It can be round the corner, or it can be very far away. Even far away means what? Actually, it's very short life we have. I mean, Lomarsha Muni, who had a lifetime which is unimaginable by our calculation, unimaginable even by Lord Brahma. So he got a benediction, this Lomarsha Muni, that he would. So this is how his lifespan will be. That when one Brahma is born and he creates the universe and he sleeps many times every day, he sleeps in the night, and then at that time there's partial dissolution, then he wakes up again, there is partial creation at that point in time, and like this he lives for 100 years, which in our time is 311.04 trillion years. Okay? And then after that Brahma dies, and at his time of death the whole universe is dissolved. So that's the destruction of the universe. So when one Brahma takes birth and dies, then one hair from Lomarsha Muni's body falls down. And like that, when all the hair on his body is gone, then he will die. Now, how many millions of hairs he has on his body, and when he will die, there is no calculation on how long he shall live. And one time, Narad Muni was passing by this cottage of Lomarsha Muni. Not even cottage actually. He did not even have a cottage, he was just chanting Hare Krishna. So then he was passing by, Narad Muni said, at least have a cottage, my dear sir. Um, Otherwise, raining and all these things, how are we going to? Then Lomarsha Muni said, see, there is not enough time. We have to really, these things are incidental, they will happen or, they will not happen. But we have to not waste time in chanting. So if you consider that, now he has a lifespan which is practically eternal, and he is not wasting time, because he, out of his own humility, is not confident that he will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, when death arrives. Whether I am sufficiently capable of remembering Krishna, he is not sure. Which is why Kulashekar, he says, my dear Lord, please let me die now. Now I am young, my mind is clear, I am able to remember you. At least let me die now. Krishna tvadiya padapankaj panjarantam adyaiva me vishatu manasarajahamsah prana prayana samaye kaphavata pittaihi kantavarodhana vidho smaranam kutaste. O Lord Krishna, at this moment, let the royal swan of my mind enter the tangled stems of the lotus of your feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death, when my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile, and air? How is it possible? How is it going to be possible? So let me die now. So he is fearing that he may not be able to remember at the time of death. Of course, there is one promise in the Varaha Puran. Yadi vatadi doshena mad-bhaktah na cha mam smaret aham smarami mad-bhakto nayami paramagatim. So he says there that because of his bodily situation, if a devotee is incidentally not able to remember Krishna at the time of death, then Krishna will remember him. Krishna says, I will remember him, and I will take him across this ocean of material existence. And that is reserved. That facility is reserved for that devotee who has spent his life serving Krishna. If we have not done that, then that is not a, if I don't remember, Krishna will remember. Oh, see, Krishna is so merciful. Okay, let's go to this movie and watch the Shah Rukh Khan, this next movie. Because Krishna is merciful, no? I don't really have to remember him. Let me watch some Bollywood movie. Then, Krishna will save me at the time of death. No, no. The sincerity of purpose is all what matters. How sincere are we? Or are we taking advantage of certain statements here and there, trying to escape Krishna consciousness using those statements? Veda is to survive ahameva vedya. By all Vedic statements, surrender to Krishna is what needs to be understood. In fact, there is one website called bhaktivinodainstitute.org. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work is being published on that website. I think once I referenced to that in one of the classes. So in that there is a commentary on this. It's called Bhaktya-loka. It is a commentary on this nectar of instruction, especially the 6 things that are unfavorable for devotional service and the 6 things that are favorable. So these things. So there is some commentary on this by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and there he writes, the commentary. I don't know if I can find it. I don't want to waste time here. So the point is, he was trying to say that when we read Bhagavad-gītā, for example, some of the verses may look like they're promoting karma kanda, right? Or some of them may look like they're promoting jnana kanda or some demigod worship. So sometimes they may look like that. But actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said we have to look at every verse in the Bhagavad-gītā through the 1866 verse. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. So we have to look at every single verse, even though it is 4th chapter, 3rd chapter, whatever, through the lens of that final 1866 verse, because we have to know what is the ultimate purpose of where is Krishna. Because sometimes it looks like, for example, in a mountain, on a mountain, the mountain is like shaped like this, and there is a peak at the top. Now the road somewhere in the middle of the mountain is maybe facing that way. It's like going maybe round and in bends and turns and U-turns and like that. So it may be facing that way and sometimes that way or sometimes that way. But actually the destination is here. So although the direction of the car may look like it is going that way, but actually it is eventually leading up to this. So we have to not forget that as we are facing that or this side or that side or that side or whatever side, or going under the or in a tunnel or something like that, we should know that the ultimate end is actually we're going to reach the top. That's the whole motive, the aim of this travel. So we can't take independently without context that direction of the car. Oh, it is facing that side, so it is going that side. It is going to jump off the cliff that side. No, that's not going to happen. That's not the aim. The aim is to reach the top. So eventually one will go. So sometimes these, कांक्षन्ता कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवता क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्म च. So if one wants quick results, he can worship the demigods. He will get it. So it is said, yes, in the Bhagavad-gītā, 4th chapter, 12th verse. But then Krishna himself says avidhi purvakam later on. So they may appear contradictory, but if you understand it from 1866 point of view, we know why exactly these are being told. So the apparent contradiction disappears when we understand the motive of the entire treatise of Bhagavad-gītā. So we have to similarly understand all the time that the real motive here is to surrender to Krishna. All the instructions of the Vedas are meant to come to that point of surrendering to Krishna. Smartavya satatam Vishnu विस्मर्तव्यो न चातुचित् sarva vidhi nishedāsyur etayoreva kinkaraha. Padma Puran says that always remember Krishna and never forget him. Every other rule and regulation is meant to serve these two principles of always remembering Krishna and never forgetting him. But if we use any instruction of Krishna to further our non-remembrance of Krishna or to support our non-remembrance of Krishna, that is the most offensive blasphemy of Vedic um, literature. Quoting Vedas to, get the person out of or get ourselves out of remembering Krishna. That is why Mayavad philosophy is very dangerous. Because we are using the very Vedas which are meant for us to surrender to Krishna, to take us to surrender to Krishna. Vedas sarve rahameva ved. And screwing an opposite meaning out of it. That is the worst blasphemy. So we should never do that. Oh, Krishna said, he will take care. So I can do whatever I want. And at the end of life, Krishna will take me. So this is blasphemy. Krishna is opening up a facility for us. But that facility is there only for the sincere people. So anyway, the point is, Lomar Shumani, he said, I am, you know, I have no time for building a cottage because that is a waste of time. I would rather spend the time in furthering my remembrance by chanting Hare Krishna. So look at how he is looking at it. And here we are, thinking that death is far, far away. So far away that nobody knows how far away. We think like this. So that is our folly. Alpayusha, especially in Kali Yuga, our lifetime is very, very short. You mean, okay, even if death is 50 years away, suppose, is at the rate we are going, 50 years of practice is enough for us to remember Krishna at the time of death? Is it enough? At the rate we are going. I don't see. I don't see that happening. Let us be very clear about this. That most probably, we will never make it this time. 99.99% we are not going to make it. As much as we don't want to take birth again in this material world, we want to go back. I don't think it's going to happen. Because we're not serious about the whole thing. Oh, I'm chanting, I'm reading something, I'm attending some class, and doing something, some service. Honestly, Prabhupada said, the vast majority of my disciples will end up in the heavenly planets. Why? Because we're not going to be serious. So this is very... so that means we have failed. We will have failed the final exam of death. Anta-kāle māmeva smaran muktvā kalevaram. How is that going to happen? That can only happen if we have attraction for Krishna. Whom will we remember at the time of death? Our loved ones. And think about that phrase for a second. Our loved ones. And if we had loved Krishna, we would remember him at the time of death. But if our loved ones, if it's not the loved one, mamekam sharanam vraja, the one, Krishna, if the loved ones, the others, then we will again come back and take birth in this material world. So, you see how dangerous this is. So, it is it is all the time, it is the case that one remembers his loved ones at the time of death. So we have to take advantage of that and make Krishna our loved one. Then we will remember him at the time of death. But how can we love Krishna suddenly at the time of death? How can we remember Krishna at the time of death? Unless we love him all throughout. Love doesn't come at the last point at gunpoint. You know, love doesn't happen at gunpoint. Oh, now I'm dying. Okay, I love you, Kṛṣṇa. I can't. The love is shown by how much we dedicate our not only our mind, our intelligence, but also our body, our thoughts, our actions, and everything. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana vanusrita svabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayetat. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. You see? So, everything that we do should only be for Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa should be our lovable object. He's the only person worthy of our love. But we are not worthy of his love, you know. Because he loves us, of course, he loves everyone, but we are not reciprocating it at all. So that's why, and anta-kāle sorry, yamyam vāpi smaran bhāvaṁ tyajaty ante kalevaram tam evaiti kaunteya sadā tad-bhāva-bhāvitaḥ. Sadā tad-bhāva means always it will happen that whatever I'm thinking at the time of death, that will that will determine my next bodily situation. And the example is given in the purport of this 8.6. Bharat Maharaj, he was so self-realized, and he gave up everything. But then he got attached to a deer, and he thought of the deer at the time of death. So the thought of the deer at the time of death was influenced by his, um, thoughts and affection for the deer nearing his life, nearing his death. And he did not die a natural death. He died a unnatural death. So unnatural death can happen. And at that time we may not remember. So even though now the other thing is, we remember here in Bharat Maharaj's example is, although he has remembered Kṛṣṇa so much before, but because he was distracted at the end of life, he got a deer's body. Of course, Kṛṣṇa saw that, okay, his previous birth, his early life was about devotional service, so let me make him remember. So that advantage, of course, was there. There has been some delay in his deliverance, but he was ultimately delivered within 2-3 lifetimes. But that is because Bharat Maharaj went to an extreme level of realization already at the time. When he went to the forest, he gave up his wife, his undisputed kingdom. Everything he gave up. That much attraction he had for Kṛṣṇa. And even then, Maya is so strong that she will make us attracted to some insignificant part of her creation and keep us bound. Even after we have completely given up the grandest of her attractions, she can she can influence us to fall for the most unsuspecting of her attractions. This is why we have to be alert all the time. And alert means to be rigid in our discipline, rigid in our thought process. That even if I remember Kṛṣṇa all my life, if towards the end I become attached to something else, that will be my determining factor at the time of death. So I cannot rest on the laurels of my earlier achievements in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Oh, I have done this service, I have done that service, so Kṛṣṇa will remember me at the time of death. Yeah, Kṛṣṇa will remember. Kṛṣṇa will also remember what else we remembered. And proportionately, he will give us the result. Ye yatha maam prapadyanti tam sathaiva bhajamyaham. Yadrishi yadrishi shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrishi. So according to our faith, according to our absorption, Krishna will reward us. Yes, he remembers all that we have done, but he also remembers all that we did not do. Both he remembers. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha Arjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana Kṛṣṇa. He knows past, present, and future of every single living entity. Past means all past. Things that we even don't remember, he remembers. All the good, all the bad that we've ever done, he remembers. So, how to pass this exam of death? How to prepare for death? This is the thing. Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Kṛṣṇa and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. And that fighting, it's not two separate things. That fighting is again devotional service. See, prescribed duty of fighting means what is set for us in the Varnashram system, we have to do that. And for us, whatever order of the spiritual master we have received, now again, Kalau Shudra Sambhava, everything is less like, you know, um, everybody is a Shudra, yeah. So what is our prescribed duty, to work for somebody? Well, once we come to Krishna consciousness, we have to change that. So our duty is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, given by Prabhupada to preach. And we have to, that is our battle. Just like Arjuna had his battle, we have our battles, which is in devotional service. It is certainly not easy to fight, all these big warriors on the other side. Arjuna, it was not easy for him. But depending on Krishna, he did it. Similarly, we have our battles. Krishna has arranged battles for every devotee. And of course, the real battle is the spiritual movement. Sometimes we may think our battle is, how to, become Krishna conscious. Actually, if we have to first of all take the order of the spiritual master as our life and soul, that is our guiding principle. And the order of the spiritual master is not just, yes, we have, the chanting 16 rounds, following the four principles, waking up for Mangalarati, reading Prabhupada's books, taking only Krishna Prasadam, associating only with devotees. So all these things are essential, but these can all be done in the association of devotees, strong association. And what is the association of devotees? Association of devotees means how to advance, how to take the order of the spiritual master seriously, more seriously. It's not that I associate with devotees to learn some tips and tricks on how to improve my chanting, improve myself. No. I go to the devotees to learn how to surrender to Krishna. Not even Krishna, to the order of the spiritual master. Krishna will automatically come. Because we have no way, we have no business with Krishna, or Krishna rather has no business with us if we don't have a business with Prabhupada. So, the only way Krishna can be satisfied is through the satisfaction of Prabhupada. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasad. That's the only option we have. We are not qualified to attract Krishna. No, we are not. We can only attempt to satisfy Srila Prabhupada. So what to do for satisfying him? How to satisfy him? For example, if you go to a vendor, any vendor, businessman, merchant, you want to purchase something from him. For him to give that item to you, you have to satisfy him with sufficient payment. Right? If you have paid the full price, then he will give you the item. So that is the satisfaction. So with Guru, how to satisfy him? What is the payment that needs to be given? Here. यैरीदृशी भगवतो गतिरात्मवाद एकान्ततो निगमिभिः प्रतिपादितानः तुष्यन्त्वदभ्रकरुणाः स्वकृतेन नित्यम् को नाम तत्प्रतिकरोति विनोदपात्रम्. Prithu Maharaj continued, how can such persons who have rendered unlimited service by explaining the path of self-realization in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and whose explanations are given for our enlightenment with complete conviction and Vedic evidence, be repaid, except by folded palms containing water for their satisfaction? Such great personalities can be satisfied only by their own activities, which are distributed amongst human society out of their unlimited mercy. Now, this looks like, oh, easy to satisfy them. Okay, just folded palms containing water. Okay, I will give this water to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, please take this water. What is the meaning of this verse? What is the meaning of this verse? Oh, water. Okay, that's good. I can satisfy Prabhupada. Here, Prabhupada, take this cup of water. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. No, no, no. The another explanation of Vinodapatram. Udapatram means bowl. Udapatram actually, just like with the palms of your hand, just you know, offering of water, offering of water in cupped hands. Yeah, Udapatram. You know, Udake, Sampluto Udake, Yavanartha Udapane, Sarvatah Sampluto Udake. So anyway, there's a reservoir of water. Udapatram, patram means just a hand. So another Vina Udapatram, without offering of water. But Vinoda, if we take them together, Vinoda Patram, Vinoda means a joker or somebody who makes us happy by laughing. Like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he is happy in his bhakti. The bhakti will and gladden him. One who is satisfied by devotional service, that is Bhakti Vinod. But Vinod generally means one who is happy. Vinoda Patram means one who makes other people happy or who is a source of happiness for others. In the matter that, in the general colloquial, general sense, it is a joker, comedian. So here, the word Vinodapatram can be divided into two words, Vina and Udapatram, or can be understood as one word, Vinodapatram, which means joker. A joker's activities simply arouse laughter, and a person who tries to repay the spiritual master or teacher of the transcendental message of Kṛṣṇa becomes a laughing stock, just like a joker, because it is not possible to repay such a debt. The best friend and benefactor of all people in one is one who awakens humanity to its original Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So here, what is being said? You cannot actually repay the spiritual master. What is the best we can do then to show our gratitude? We have to give our life. Our life should be to preach the message of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. And this has to be done with devotees, in the association of those devotees who have dedicated their lives to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, to the order of the spiritual master, and conduct it as a mission. So this missionary activity of preaching is the method by which Srila Prabhupada will be satisfied. Prabhupada is always satisfied with book distribution scores, with with everybody engaged in Krishna consciousness, in that way, in the preaching mission. Because Krishna is, Prabhupada said, just by, without preaching, the whole thing will crumble. There will be no life. Prana ache jar, shehe tu prachar. Those who have life, they can preach. So that means those who are not preaching, they will not be left with any life in their spiritual sadhana. The sadhana will die. It will become a chore. It will become a burden. Prabhupada actually explains this in one lecture, where the temple, the deity worship, the seva, everything becomes a burden rather than a source of happiness. One drags his feet to do some service. So that is not good. That is a very sad state of affairs. It's a dangerous state of affairs. is just one step away from jumping the ship. Jumping the ship means into the sea of material existence. That means quitting Krishna consciousness. So, of course, there will be anxiety in service. That is a different thing. We're talking about that is not a burden. Anxiety in Krishna consciousness, seva sukha dukkha, parama sampada, nāshaya avidyar dukkha. There may be seva sukha dukkha. There may be happiness and anxiety and distress in the matter of executing devotional service. But still, that is parama sukha. That is actually that anxiety is a source of ecstatic happiness, ecstasy. But because we will become more and more Krishna conscious with that, but and it will destroy the misery of ignorance. But if we consider the service as a burden, oh why I have to do the service, this I don't want to do this service, then that is when things that is a dangerous state to be in. Hmm. So that's why, in order for the service not to become a burden, we should constantly remind ourselves of the great fortune of devotional service. And that happens if we read Prabhupada's books every single day. Then we are reminded every single day. Even though we know the philosophy, we should still read. Because there are so many subtle things we will learn. And even if it is just repetition of the same thing, it reinforces our understanding. If I find Prabhupada's books repetitive, that means I have not understood that point. That's why I'm only able to see that point. Because that is the thing I have to understand. But if I have understood that point, then I will see higher things, more things there, which I'm now unable to see because I'm not, past that stage of understanding the basic points. That's why I feel it's the same thing. And it is not a problem if we feel that it is the same thing. That means, Krishna is or Prabhupada is blessing us by showing the same things over and over again because hey, you have not understood this here again. So that way. So once we understood, then we will see the same instruction hit differently um, based on our current situation. You will experience this as you read Prabhupada's books. You will have many wonderful experiences. So many miracles just by reading Prabhupada's books. The amount of guidance you will receive by just reading Prabhupada's books on a daily basis can never be understated. Um, and those who read Prabhupada's books every day, they know this, how it will help. And so, we have to do that. These are magical books. I mean, these books, to even touch these books is difficult for the vast number of multitude of living entities in this material world. They never get to this point. But we are able to touch, we are able to have them in our pocket, in our devices. And still, we fail to actually open and take advantage. So that we have to do. Just, it's not that, I'm not, how to get this love of Krishna. As much as I said, okay, we're not going to go back to Godhead or something like that, the way to rectify it is not very difficult. It's not complicated. It's simple. Just that we have to stick to it. That's the only thing that is required. We have to read every day and we have to do service regularly every day with full attention. And actually, when we couple our service with reading, not that interfere our service with reading. Don't interfere with your service with reading. When you have to do service, then you are opening the book and starting reading. No. That has to be a different time at your own personal listing. You have to find a time for that. But you have to read and chanting. Chanting is just, as much as possible. Avoid all the offenses and especially inattentive chanting. Avoid that. So then we can be more mindful of our activities, our services, and then we will increase in our thing. That's all. And of course, waking up every morning, eating only Krishna prasadam, that is another important thing. If our eating is not of Krishna prasadam, if we are just eating some vegetarian food or something like that, I'm sorry. the bhava will not erupt. I mean, the bhava will not, what is it, come as much as is necessary. We may have some intellectual kind of understanding of the devotional service, but we will not be able to enter the intricacies and the ecstasy of devotional service without eating Krishna Prasadam and without following Mangalarati, without following all these things. It is impossible. It's not possible. Therefore, there is one incident where Prabhupada, this Dr. Patel always comes and has some debates with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, see, of course, he encouraged in a way, but also put him in his place, this Dr. Patel. Because Dr. Patel is kind of Vaishnav, but he is having so much contamination with some Mayavad philosophy also, and some you know not very clear in the whole thing. So, but he has attraction somehow, and he appreciates devotional service and everything. But he always used to have these talks with Prabhupada and all like that. And Prabhupada said, you know, because he used to think that this Dr. Patel, he used to think that, see, I am Indian, I know more shlokas than these American boys and girls and all these European devotees. So I'm on a higher level of understanding of bhakti than them. Although yes, they are surrendered and they are like preaching, doing book distribution, opening temples and all these things. But because I am more understanding of the philosophy and like the shlokas I have some understanding of the philosophical side of things, so I'm more advanced. But actually Prabhupada put him in his place. He said, see, you are appreciating devotional service, so you are in Shantaras, but they are actually engaged in devotional service. They are in Dasaras. They are more advanced than you. So the point is to be engaged. Of course, Shantaras and Dasaras are very, very highly, they're actually stages of love of Godhead. Shantaras is sometimes debated. Sometimes it is on the borderline of achieving love of Godhead, but sometimes some Vaishnava acharyas, they say this is actually love of Godhead as well. So this is in the stage of prema. Shantaras or Dasaras, these are all in the stage of prema. Actually, none of them. I mean, even those dedicated devotees, they're not on the level of prema. They're sadhakas. Those who are doing sadhana, but not on the level of prema yet. And forget somebody who's not even taken initiation like Dr. Patel, who hasn't even done the first step, which is surrendering to a guru. So when we have such a situation, of course, Prabhupada gave some euphemism, you are in Shantaras, they are in Dasaras, but honestly, the real point he was trying to make is not that he was in actually Shantaras or they are in Dasaras. Of course, because they're engaged in Krishna's service, so that is dāsa, dasam. But the thing is, they're not in the dāsa ras, like in the prema, love of God, like Hanuman or something like that, who's a pure devotee, right? So, but what is the essence that is Prabhupada is trying to convey? He's trying to say that being engaged in devotional service, being actually as engaged in devotional service, is more important than this philosophical or intellectual understanding of it without being engaged. Because if I understand intellectually, then I have to actually engage myself. I have to be humble enough to engage in any service. And sometimes it may be, to test the humility of a disciple. Sometimes, I mean, even Kṛṣṇa was asked to get firewood from the forest by his guru. Now, knowing Krishna's position as the supreme personality of Godhead, as one who is capable of everything, to ask him to get some firewood from the forest, is that a good use of the disciple's capabilities? Certainly not. Then why is he asked? So the point is, it is not whether a person is overqualified for this job or for this seva or something like that. It's the humility that we have to develop by doing any service that is given to us, however menial it may be. Acharan dasavan nicha. Nicha means the duty of a disciple is to take up any anything, however menial it may be, because maybe my skill is not being put to good use in a service, but it's not the skill that matters. It's not the talent that matters in Krishna's service, because it's the devotion that matters. Even if, suppose, I am good at, say, um, writing. Suppose I'm good at writing. Um, how I will write? Suppose I write an article for our temple magazine. But if I don't have the humility, what is the use of my writing? In fact, my pride will only increase, and I will eventually fall, because I think I'm a great writer, and I can, express something very well, or I give class, and I'm expert explainer of things. And then what will happen with that? That will be the cause of my pride, and that pride will be the cause of my fall. So my talent will actually be the cause of my fall, and also I will try to find faults with other devotees who may not be seemingly as talented as I am externally, but they may have more devotion. But because I think I have very high estimation of my own talent, so I will look down upon them. And therefore, to correct this, sometimes these services are given where one's humility is cultivated. That humility is the first thing that attracts Krishna. How I can become dāsa, dāsa. How can I become a servant? If I think that some service is beneath my dignity, if I am supposed to sweep and mop the floor, and I feel, what is that? I mean, why is he asking me to sweep and mop the floor? I can do much better things, Somebody who cannot do anything, they can sweep and mop the floor. I can do something, so why doesn't he let me do that service? No, it's not that. See, a devotee, when he tries to engage other people in service, he sees actually how much they are submissive, and accordingly he can be put. The more submissive a devotee is, the more responsible service he can be given. And the more not submissive he is, the more he is untrustworthy with any service. So a devotee wants to see, the senior devotee is the guru, Dohar Parikshan. He sees what kind of a mentality this person has. Hmm. Whether he can be entrusted with more responsible service or not. In this Krishna consciousness, we are not some controllers. When we have more responsible service, more managerial service, or more this thing, that is only more responsibility only. But everything is managed by Krishna. But we have to become responsible in our service. We may manage some things, but that is only out of responsible service. So how can one be responsible if he is not humble? He cannot be responsible. He will only be self-centered, and he will not be able to deal with anything. So we have to understand the importance of seemingly less important things, but actually they are the most important things. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he tested, you know, sometimes, some, even Prabhupada did this in one instance, where this new person came and sat down. New person or some, I don't know exact context of it. Prabhupada said, ask him to go and wash the pots, the utensils. He was sitting in the class, darshan, evening darshan or something like that. He was asked to sit and, go and wash the pots. Because that will be the test of his, okay, how much is his thing, subservient, or how much is submissive. Krishna, he went and to the forest and collected some firewood. Come on, the supreme personality of Godhead, what is he being asked to do? But he's showing an example. Acharan dasavan nicha. So that's how we have to take the service to the spiritual master. We can never repay him. Never should we think that anything will repay what the Guru has done for us, what Sri Prabhupada has done for us. The only thing is that the only thing we can See, Janme Janme Prabhu se Chakshudan Diloje. So he's our master life after life. So even our one life, this one life, if we dedicate to Prabhupada, it is not enough. Janme Janme Prabhu se. He's our life, he's our master life after life. For eternity, he is our master. So how can an eternal master be repaid? No, he cannot be repaid. So the best we can offer, the best we have in our possession is our life. And therefore we have to dedicate our life. In that endeavor, then the remembrance of Kṛṣṇa, the remembrance of the orders of the spiritual master, and the execution of such order, the absorption in such activity, these are the things that will guarantee us that will guarantee our successful successful, how to say, result in the final exam of death. So, in other words, we should not be too much worried about what will happen at the time of death. What we should be worried, instead, we should be worried, but not about the death, about our life. We should be worried about how much actually I'm surrendering to Prabhupada, how much actually I'm doing really, how can I improve, what can I do better. Um, um, and it doesn't have to be very big things. Okay, so let me start reading. Let me do 1 hour a day. Let me get that constant first. And let me invest more. Let me be more attentive to my service. Let me be more attentive to my chanting. It is not going to happen overnight. Overnight, we're not going to become pure devotees. Yes, Prabhu, actually, yes, I'm in this, I'm in all these problems. Okay, from tomorrow, I'm going to be pure devotee. No, it's not going to happen like that. We will going to be falling many times, but we have to have the determination to always, and introspection to always look at ourselves and then improve upon ourselves, and become humble. And just taking these few steps, and the effect is colossal. So that is what we should be focusing on. Again, the same example as I've given many times, Prabhupada's example. Where not being too concerned about the result will automatically come if we focus on the recipe or the procedure. Just like if I get my code, if I'm a coder, if I get my code right, the effect will be there. If I'm a cook, if I follow the recipe exactly, and I will get the resultant dish. But if I'm not going to follow it, then how I can expect? So I have to be attentive in all the details of it, of the prescription, of the recipe, and then yes, I will get the result. So that result we don't have to worry about. It's like Prabhupada gave the example of yogi, bhogi, rogi. Yogi is a person who goes to the pass stool once a day. Bhogi is a person who passes stool twice a day. Rogi is a person who passes stool 3 times or more in a day. He has a diarrhea or whatever it is. Rogi. So yogi means a self-controlled, person. Bhogi means who's a sense gratifier. Rogi means a diseased person. So yogi is supposed to be in the mode of goodness, bhogi is supposed to be in the mode of passion, and rogi is supposed to be in the mode of ignorance. So although they are judged by how many times they pass stool in a day, but the means to rectify it, if I'm a bhogi or a rogi, if I want to become a yogi, it's not that I control, or even if I'm wanting to go to the toilet, I just control myself because I just want to be going to the toilet once a day. But I'm unable to control because I've eaten so much. No, no, no. That is stupidity. So the controlling is not at the anus but at the mouth. The result will be at the anus. So this is the thing. So although passing the exam at the time of death is to remember Kṛṣṇa and not forget him, but there is no point in being worried about that without actually doing what is necessary while we are living in this body. There's no point worrying about that if I'm not doing what is necessary now. So my worry should be, yes, it is the worry that I have to remember Kṛṣṇa at the time of death, but there's no point of worrying about it without doing what is necessary now. So the real worry should be, the focus should be now. How to become Kṛṣṇa conscious. So what I can do to tweak my devotional life so that it's according to what the instructions of Prabhupada are given to us. So that I have to do. So just a few verses before we wrap up this thing session. Um, this is about Bharat Maharaj, how he fell down. 588 Bhagavatam. Sundar Prabhu pointed us to this, and the purport, the first line of the purport, very important. तस्य हवा तस्य हवा एण कुणक उच्चैर एतस्मिन् कृत निजाभिमानस्याहर निजाभिमा निजा निजाभिमानस्याहरहस्तत्पोषण पालन लालन प्रेणन अनुध्यानेन आत्मनियमाः सह यमाः पुरुष परिचर्यादया एकैकशः कतिपयेनाहर्गणेन वियुज्यमानाः किल सर्व एवोदवसन्. Gradually, Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate toward the deer. He began to raise it, maintain it by giving it grass. He was always careful to protect it from the attacks of tigers and other animals. When it itched, he petted it, and in this way, he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. So these are the symptoms of affection. What is that? Tat aharaha, every day. Tat poshana, palana, lalana, preenana, anudhyanena. Hmm. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules and regulations for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. So, the first part of this purport. From this, we can understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duties by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangalarti, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, study the Vedic literatures, and follow all the rules prescribed by the acharyas and the spiritual master. If we deviate from this process, we may fall down even though we may be very highly advanced. So these things, at least we have to get them right. And the importance of reading is summarized here. जे लीला अमृता वीणे खाए यदि अन्न पाने तबे भक्ते दुर्बल जीवन जार एक बिंदु पाने उत्फुल्लित तनु माने हासि गाय करो ये नर्तन. Men become strong and stout. Okay, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 25, verse 278. We have quoted this many times. Men become strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Kṛṣṇa gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of nectar of the Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. Purport. All the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read. You see that? Must read all the books that have been translated, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gītā, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. So, there is extreme stakes. If we are not careful now, then at the time of death, we are not going to see Krishna at all. It's almost certain that we're not going to see Krishna because we're not doing any of this. So when we do all these things, like that's now the 588, all the regulative principles, and also add to that Krishna Prasadam, you know, And in fact, to summarize the activities of a disciple, we'll go to this verse. Unflinching faith in the spiritual master is one thing, many things, but you see here, Guru Shushrūshaya Bhaktya Sarva Labdharpanena Cha Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam Ishwar Aradhanena Cha Shraddhaya Tat Kathayam Cha Kirtana Irguna Karmanam Tat Padamburu Hadhyana Tallingeksharhanadibhi. One must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master, and in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the instructions of the Shastra and Guru. You see this? So, this is the sum total of all activities of a disciple. You should accept a bona fide spiritual master. That means he has to become a disciple and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. And you see, one should Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam, not that, oh, I am now a devotee, a disciple, I will just serve Prabhupada. No, Sangena Sadhu Bhaktanam. He has to associate with devotees and together with them he has to serve. If I am without them, then I am not becoming dāsa, dāsa, dāsa. I am just becoming directly dāsa. And Kṛṣṇa will give him a nice slap. You see that? Dāsa, dāsa, dāsa is our motto. So now, in the here, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Rupa Goswami is saying in the purport, Guru Padashrayastasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam Vishrambhena Guru Seva Sadhu Vartmanuvartanam Sadharma Prichha Bhogadityaga Krishnasya Hetave. He has to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, take knowledge from him, and take diksha from him, and very attentively serve the Guru, and follow the path of the sadhus, the devotees, great devotees, Mahajana Yenagata Sapantha, and be in the association of devotees, Sadharma Prichha. He has to always inquire about questions related to the absolute truth, and Bhogati Tyagaha Krishnasya Hetave. Accepting and rejecting things should be on the principle of whatever is acceptable or unacceptable by Krishna, like the nectar of instruction. What are the things we should not be doing? What are the things we should be doing? How we should associate with devotees? All these kinds of things. You see? So, and here, if you see this word, sarvalabdha arpanena cha, whatever we have in our possession, we should give it to the Guru. That is the definition of surrender. Otherwise, if I am keeping something for myself, that is percentage of surrender now. There is a percentage. So, how much we keep and how much we give to Krishna. So, our percentage of surrender is how much we are keeping to, how much we are giving to Krishna divided by how much we have in total, or how much we are allotted in total in this life by Krishna, and how much of it we are giving back to Krishna. So, how much we are giving divided by how much we have times by 100, that is a percentage of our surrender. And when I say what we have means including our life, our talents, our physical possessions, our money, our family, our everything. So how much of it, and our time. So how much of the percentage am I actually this thing doing? And also coupled with all of this, our mental, how much of our mind are we giving to Krishna? That means in 24 hours, how much am I thinking of Krishna, and how much intensely am I thinking about his service or Krishna or anything related to Krishna, all these things. How much attentive I am to, the services that I've been given or whatever. So that is the meaning of Sarvalabdha Arpanena Cha. So in this way, we have to evaluate ourselves. And if we really evaluate ourselves, we will find that this is the thing. Only when we do not evaluate ourselves, do we think that we are doing something very great in devotional service? But actually, if we really evaluate ourselves, this is what we will come to conclusion. न प्रेमाश्रवणादिभक्तिरपि वा योगोऽथवा वैष्णवो ज्ञानं वा शुभकर्म वा कियदहो सज्जातिरप्यस्ति वा हीनार्थाधिकसाधके त्वयि तथाप्यच्छेद्यमूला सती हे गोपीजनवल्लभव्यथयते हा हा मदाशैव माम्. O my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaishnava, nor do I belong to a very high caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy on the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. That hope is giving me pain. So this is the thing that we will find. If we really have a good estimation of ourselves, this is where I always point to the wrong side because I do not have a real screen here. So this is where we will end up in our understanding of ourselves. Um, so um, again, this is the thing. Pritirna yavan maya vasudeve. So I mean, this is one of the last verses. I will let you go after this. 5 5. Okay, let's go to 554, 5 and 6. 554. नूनं प्रमत्तः कुरुते विकर्म यदिन्द्रियप्रीतय आपृणोति न साधु मन्ये यत आत्मनोऽयम् असन्नपि क्लेशद आसदेहः. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. So, sense gratification is not good, you know. Na sadhu. Sadhu means good. Na sadhu means not good. So that we have understood. Okay. Now, पराभवस्तावदबोधजातो यावन्न जिज्ञासत आत्मतत्त्वं यावत् क्रियास्तावदिदन्मनो वै कर्मात्मकं येन शरीरबन्धः. Now, when we have sense gratification going on, that is primarily due to kama, lust, a desire to enjoy this material world. And kama, if you see in the third chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, 337 through 343, Kṛṣṇa gives a whole masterclass on kama, lust. And he says, Jnanam avritya dehinam. So this kama, it covers the knowledge of the living entity. And that means we'll become ignorant. And even after we have gotten knowledge, if we engage in again sense gratification, again it will cover our knowledge. So because of a lack of knowledge, we become engaged in activities based on ignorance. So there are activities everywhere. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatutishtatya karma krit. We cannot stay without doing something. Bhagavad-gītā chapter 3 text 5. Not even for a moment we can stay without doing something. So now our doing is dependent on our conviction. Our convictions are dependent on our knowledge. Now, if I'm convinced of this material world and everything is material in the material world is good and I have to gratify my senses, if that is my understanding, then my actions will be based on those convictions, and that is called fruitive activity. Yavat kriyas tavadidam manovai karmatmakam yena sharirabandha. So that is kriya. So parabhava, defeat of our, see, as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, knowledge begins with inquiry. From ignorance to knowledge, the state of ignorance, the state of being ignorant to the state of being knowledge. This journey happens. The driver, the starting point is inquiry. Brahma Jignasa. Who am I? That is the beginning of the journey from ignorance to knowledge, inquiry. So Brahma athata Brahma jigyasa. So parabhava stavad abodha jato yavan na jigyasata atmatattvam. So as long as we do not inquire, we remain defeated in this whole endeavor. And if you extrapolate that to our action, if we are not reading Prabhupada's books, primarily what does that imply? That we are not eager enough to know. We are not inquisitive enough to know what the truth is. You see, that is the implication. So if we have inquiry, if we have a hunger for knowing about Krishna, Vasudeva Katha Ruchi, then we will automatically, no need to actually push for anybody to, read Prabhupada's books. But the inquisitiveness is not there. You may think, oh, what to inquire? I already know Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am his servant. Okay, so what else? And then the inquiry is, how can I now become a servant? Now I'm not his servant. So how can I become? That should be the inquiry. So it's not that inquiry means, oh, who is Krishna? Okay, I already know Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, fine. Inquiry is satisfied. Finish. No, how to go about next step? Next step. What is the next step? So the inquiry opens up the next step, the next step, the next step. So in the beginning, the inquiry is, who is Krishna? Who am I? These are the first. Once we've understood that, okay, now what to do? Like, who's Sanatana Goswami asks, where is that verse? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he says, now that I am liberated, what is my duty? Sanatana Goswami asks this to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There, Prabhupada gives the purport that life after liberation is not a void. It's not that, oh, everything is finished now, no more activity. No. Real activities then starts at that point. So after one has understood that, okay, I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul. So next what? Is service. Okay, maybe you may think, okay, I understand that also, I have to engage in service. Okay, I have to do this. But I'm not doing it. Okay, so what? The next inquiry should be, what should I do? How should I get to actually doing it? Okay, just do it. Associate with devotees. Okay, just do it may not be enough because, oh, I don't have the determination to wake up or do all these things. Okay, associate with devotees. Automatically I'll be forced. So there is always inquiry how to open up the next chapter, the next, increment of our progress. So that should be the inquiry, and all these, inquiries lead us to the ultimate goal, prayojana. And it's not just inquiry. Inquiry is the beginning. So inquiry means then we will get an answer. Then we have to act upon the answer. And then the next inquiry. And then the next answer. And then the next action on that. So this is the process. So everything has to, lead to the proper action. So this kriya, that's why it's important. Adhyatmam karma chakhilam. So there is a point in that. There's a subject we are actually discussing because Krishna has declared certain things. Adhyatmam karma chakhilam. The intelligent people, they deliver themselves from old age and death because they are completely aware of transcendental activities and everything. So we have to know what is transcendental activity and in contrast what is material activity so that we don't like mix and think that everything is transcendental activity now. I should know the distinction. So if my jigyasata doesn't happen, inquiry doesn't happen, then I'm defeated. So as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life, one is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance. Be it sinful or pious, karma has its result in actions. If a person is engaged in any kind of karma, his mind is called karmatmaka. So our mind is karmatmaka now, is absorbed in fruitive activity, you see, colored with fruitive activity. As long as the mind is impure, consciousness is unclear, and as long as one is absorbed in fruitive activity, he has to accept a material body. Has to. There's no escaping that fact. Don't be in this, utopian idea that I'm going back to Godhead after this life. No, it's not happening. As much as we want this to happen, as much as our whole philosophy is that after this life we have to go back to Godhead, let's face the reality. With the pace, with the involvement that we currently have, we are not going to make it. Let us be very clear about that. The only way we can, even actually for a devotee to think about, the goal should be to go back to Godhead is itself distraction. A devotee really doesn't want that. He just wants to be engaged in the service. That's why. And what is service? What is given by the spiritual master. So to execute his order should be our only focus. Ekeha Kurunandana. That's it. That's the only focus. Nothing else. Everything else doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. Whether we go back to Godhead, whether we stay in this material world, it actually doesn't matter, because even if we stay in this material world, if we are focused on the order of the spiritual master, we will not feel the pangs of the material world. So it absolutely doesn't matter where we stay, where we go, everything, all this doesn't matter. To be engaged in Krishna's service is what matters. But if our mind is full of karmatmaka, there's no inquiry about transcendental life. That means I'm comfortably situated in material life. There's no inquiry to get out of it. That means I'm in a dangerous position. And repeated birth and death is assured. Assured. And the next verse confirms that even more emphatically. Evam manah karma vasam prayunte avidyayatmanyupadhiyamane प्रीतिर्न यावन्मयि वासुदेवे न मुच्यते देहयोगेन तावत् न मुच्यते देहयोगेन. We are not going to be liberated at all. We're not going back to Godhead. Preetirna yavan. As long as we don't have this attraction for Krishna. When the living entity is covered by the mode of ignorance, he does not understand the individual living being and the supreme living being, and his mind is subjugated to fruitive activity. Therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, which is prema, love means prema. Ado shraddha, sadhusanga, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. The ninth stage. Whereas we are stuck in the fourth, anartha nivritti is not happening. We are stuck. Stage 4, cancer. So, therefore, until one has love for Lord Vasudeva, who is none other than myself, he is certainly not delivered. What is the word? Let us highlight. Certainly. Not that one is not delivered. Certainly not delivered. We are certainly returning to this material world. And imagine, now Kali Yuga is bad. It is going to be worse. We are certainly coming back. The way we are going currently. He is certainly not delivered from having to accept a material body. Not again. Again and again. So we just have to be, sincere with our endeavor and think and see that if I really am interested at all in Krishna consciousness, let me be wholeheartedly involved in it. And if I'm not wholeheartedly, involving in, and that is because I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. As much as I want to think that I'm convinced, I'm not. Because if I'm doing something else, that it is not. We're not convinced, that means. So how to convince ourselves? Read, Shravanam. Our ears can save us. The books can save us. Books are the basis of our movement. And when the books are not there, all the surveys, festivals, this, that, nothing matters. We are not going anywhere. We are staying in the material world. We will be rotting here only. Even though we do, officially some devotional service, it's not going to help. Of course, whatever you do, yeah, neha vikramana shosti pratyavana vidyate. But again, if I do some service, that is very minuscule compared to what I can be doing if I put my full attention to it, right? So I have to think on all these things, and always be conscious of these things and engage ourselves in all the essentials and all the essential things that we need to do as a devotee. Automatically the ruchi will come. There will be a taste. Then automatically devotional service becomes enjoyable. Then it will further us more and more and more. But it will become burdensome if we don't follow the rules. So, all right, I think I will stop there. That's quite a discouraging class, I know, but it's always good to have some reality check um, instead of having some wild dreams. Then we can act positively. So, I will take any questions that may be there. Divya Mataji is asking, Prabhuji, if we can get so much attracted to Maya in the form of attachment to family members or loved ones, then why can't we be attracted to Krishna, who is all attractive so easily? So the magnet irresistibly attracts iron. Magnet will attract. In fact, Prahlad Maharaj actually offers one prayer like that. Let me be attracted to you as iron filings are attracted to a magnet. I think Akarsha. Magnet is called Akarsha. You see here, this Prahlad Maharaj is saying, यथा भ्राम्यत्ययो ब्रह्मन् स्वयम् आकर्ष सन्निधौ तथा मे भिद्यते चेतश्चक्रपाणेर्यदृच्छया. O Brahmanas, teachers, this Prahlad is speaking to his so-called Gurukul teachers, Shanda and Amarka. O Brahmanas, teachers, as iron attracted by a magnetic stone moves automatically toward the magnet, my consciousness, having been changed by his will, is attracted by Lord Vishnu, who carries a disc in his hand. Thus, I have no independence. So, we are supposed to be like the iron filings or iron piece, irresistibly supposed to be attracted by the magnet of Krishna. But if our iron, if the iron is rusty, a rusty piece of iron won't be attracted by a magnet. It is very feebly attracted by the magnet. And that feeble attraction is shown with our lust. By lust, we are attracted to someone in this world, our so called loved ones, but who they are actually part and parcel of Krishna. We are attracted to the body of those parts and parcels of Krishna. So it is a very feeble attraction to Krishna, but in a very indirect way, very perverted way. So now, right now, we are rusty. And what is this rust that is on us? That is this material contamination. So, Shravanadi Shuddha Sitya Karoya Uday, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhu Noy. So, real Krishna Prema is always there. It is covered by this dust or rust of materialism. When that is cleansed by the Shravanam Kirtanam process, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroya Uday. I think 22107, right? Madhya. I'm blindly hoping that I'll be right. Let me see. Aha. Jackpot lottery. I gambled. Rajikishore Prabhu always says, you're gambling with numbers. Don't gamble. Gambling is a sin. Because we say 22107 and all these numbers, we're gambling whether it is right or wrong, whether we'll hit the jackpot or not. He says, no gambling, please. So I hit the jackpot. So Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhyaka Bhunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroy Uday. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So the reason why we are not attracted is because we are not purified. So the purification happens by Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta, hearing, etc. Hearing and chanting and engaging ourselves. If we hear and chant nicely, then all our engagement will follow nicely. Hmm. Hmm. So, despite a very rigid life in devotional service, Bharat Maharaj did not consult a spiritual master when he became overly attached to a deer. So sometimes there may be downfalls, and if we don't consult a spiritual master, how to consult a spiritual master? Read his books. That's it. Answer will be there for sure. And of course, we can also consult our Shiksha Gurus if they give answer from the Diksha Guru's teachings, and that will be as good as the Diksha Guru giving us the answer. But just by reading, we will get all the answers. All the answers. So, but if we are not reading, then our consultation with spiritual master is not going to happen. So we will decide on our own whatever we want to do. Do what you want. You know. Apparently, it is the in Christianity, I think, or rather, they think that the devil's motto is do what you want. So basically, that means यः शास्त्रविदम् उत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखम न परां गतिम्. Nothing. Shastravidam, Shastra, Shas Dhatu. Shastra means scriptures, and of course the teachings of the Guru, the instructions of the Guru, the controlling factors, which are the instructions of the Guru. So if we give up, then finish. Forgetting his spiritual routine, he fell down. Ravi Singh is saying only Guru can save us, and the bona fide Guru is Prabhupada. Guru can save us, no doubt. A bona fide Guru can save us. But a bona fide Guru also cannot save an insincere disciple. Because what does the Guru do? He gives us the path how to go, but we have to tread that path ourselves. So the Prabhupada can save million and the whole universe. But if I am unwilling to follow, Prabhupada cannot save us. Why Kṛṣṇa is unable to take us back home, back to Godhead? Can he not take us? He can, but why is he not taking our independence? And he does not interfere with our independence. So we are rendering Kṛṣṇa incapable of taking us back because we are not interested in that place. And Kṛṣṇa is feeling pain because of that. And I think that verse was shown many times, right? What is that? Yeah, this verse is always there on my screen on this other app. This is Krishna's pain. अस्मिन् अस्मिन् निहेहैव भवे भावे मदुन्मुखः इत्याशया तदात्तवात्यन्तं नर्तितोऽस्मि सदाज्ञवत्. So Krishna is sitting as a Paramatma in our heart. This is a dialogue between Narayana in this Vaikuntha Loka. When the living entity finally went back to after being in the material world for so long, this Gopakumar, he went back to the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world, the Lord is welcoming him with these words. He's reminding him, hey, when you were there in the material world, in every life that you took, I was there as a Paramatma with you, sitting in your heart. And this is what I was thinking. He said, for so long, hope had me dancing like a fool. I was so much hopeful, thinking, perhaps in this lifetime, or in this lifetime, or now, maybe in this lifetime, or in this, he will finally turn his face toward me. In this way, I was dancing like a fool, hoping that you will turn to me. Oh, he's coming back. But he's disappointed at the end of life. And then he goes to the next body. Okay, this life he will make it. I will get some devotees to come into his path, and maybe his son will become a devotee. But he will become antagonistic to the son. And then again, Kṛṣṇa is disappointed. Although I made his son a devotee or his father a devotee, he's not interested. Or his friend is a devotee, maybe still he's not interested. He went in some other way. So in this way, he is very disappointed with us. So Guru also cannot save us if we are insincere in taking up his order. He can save us if we provided we become a disciple. The contract is not there when we don't fulfill our terms in the contract. Prabhupada has taken on the contract of sending us back home, back to Godhead. But there are terms and conditions. We have to be a disciple. If we don't fulfill the terms of the contract, Prabhupada will not take us back. Nobody can take us back. So we have to become. So if we are not having the determination to follow, then we just associate with devotees. Even though we have no determination, we will become successful. Because suppose alone in the house I will be sleeping, but in the temple, for example, even if I am sleeping, the devotees will wake me up. Hey, Mangalarti, Mangalarti. Okay, okay, come, come. So I am following. So I will automatically do all these things. That's why if I cannot stay in the temple, I stay nearby the temple. So somehow or other, we will be, even if I have zero determination or something, in the association of devotees, all perfection will be there. You know? So I have to take the steps of surrender. From what I've learned from this class, it isn't enough to have philosophical understanding of Krishna consciousness without practice of devotional service and humility. Dāsa, dāsa, dāsa. Yeah, absolutely. So, our so, however, I mean, okay, let me just run through the other comments. Also, to that, without reading and service makes us fall down. Yes, our reading has to bring up our Brahma Jignasa, which leads to inquiry of how to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, all these things. It will. So we don't have to overthink this. These are the consequences of not taking this path seriously. But if we just take seriously the simple steps, they're actually not difficult. They're simple to do, but we just don't do them. So now we have to do them. And if I'm unable to do it on my own, I have to take advantage of the association of devotees. Then all these things will be done automatically. Divya Mataji is saying, today's class, although created extreme uneasiness, the conclusion that aspiring for going back to Godhead itself is a distraction has inspired us. Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, our focus should be on following the order of the spiritual master. Then, yasa prasadat bhagavat prasada. Krishna will do the rest of it. And he will admit us into the spiritual world. Everything is possible. But we are not working for that result at all. Our only focus is how can Prabhupada be happy? How can I please Prabhupada? That's it. That should be my focus. And that satisfaction of Prabhupada comes with satisfying those who are serving Prabhupada. It's another thing we have to learn. And dāsa means by satisfying those devotees who are serving Prabhupada nicely, I will satisfy Prabhupada. So if they are giving me some order, I have to do it very diligently, very nicely. And I have to satisfy them. And if they're not satisfied, I should pray to Krishna, pray to Prabhupada, pray to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How can I please this devotee? So we can ask Krishna something. That is, that even great devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Kulashekar Alvar, what are they praying for? Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatat Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvai. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, give me your devotional service. But in another place he said, Dāsa Dāsa Dāsa. And King Kulashekar is saying to the Lord, please make me servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of your servant. 7 times. So even Prahlad Maharaj is asking the Lord, please, if you want me to give benediction, if you want to give me benediction, please give me the benediction that I may become a servant of your servant. So that we can ask. We can ask Krishna, please give me intelligence how to satisfy this devotee who is giving me this order, but I am unable to really serve properly. So that we can ask from Krishna. So I'm sorry to have upset many of you. unsettling class. But I think this has to be a proper thing. This will set our thinking right, and then we can conduct ourselves properly. Morning walk. What is this? Nishita Mataji. Ekas chandras tamohanti nachatara sahasrasha. If I create one moon, that is sufficient. I don't want many stars. This is the thing. So Prabhupada is not interested in this star-like devotees. Somebody wants to be superstar. We're not interested in being a star. We want to become the moon. Those who think of becoming superstar devotees, I want to become the best kirtaniya, I want to become the best lecturer, I want to become the best artist, I want to become the best singer, I want to become the best book distributor. These are all distractions, becoming superstar devotee. But we want to become the moon. And for the moon, that will only be possible, if we just become humble. So, yeah. So Nishita Mataji is saying, what an eye-opening class. I don't know. I'm just opening my eyes. I'm just so tired of being so blind. So I'm just trying to just hit myself with all these punches. So thank you very much for spending this time, and we'll meet again on what is this? Another. This cut was needed to release us from the gunas. Cut. Okay. So thank you very much. Bhagavad-gītā ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nithaya Gaur Premananda, Hare 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 Krishna.